Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into, well, a really unique corner of Tokyo. We're looking at Komatsugawa in Edogawa Ward.
A fascinating place, definitely.
Yeah, and if you just glance at a map, the first thing that hits you is, well, it's strange. Komatsugawa is part of Edogawa Ward, but the huge Arakawa River cuts it off from the main territory.
Exactly. It's an area really defined by water, by past disasters, but also by some pretty incredible engineering.
Right, and that engineering is key. We're talking about a 0-meter zone, land basically at or below sea level, but it's built up on these massive levees, super levees they call them.
Which is fundamental to how it exists today. It's what allows it to be there.
So our mission really is to unpack the story here. How did these historical events shape this land? And maybe find some of the hidden gems that came out of its resilience.
Sounds good. There's a lot to cover.
Okay, so let's start with that big geographical question. Why is Komatsugawa still part of Edogawa Ward when that massive river sits right in between?
Well, the simple answer is that the river wasn't always there, or rather that specific wide channel wasn't.
Ah, okay, so it's artificial.
Completely. We're talking about the Arakawa floodway. It's a man-made channel. The original, much smaller river, the old Nakagawa, is still there, but this huge floodway is the divider.
And why build such a massive thing? Must have been a major reason.
Oh, absolutely. You have to go back to the early 20th century. Tokyo's eastern lowlands, the Koto Delta area where Komatsugawa is, were constantly under threat from flooding.
Right.
And then came the Meiji 43rd Great Flood in 1910. It was just devastating, caused immense damage.
So that was the trigger.
That was the catalyst. The government realized that tinkering wasn't enough. They needed a massive solution to protect central Tokyo. And that solution was the Arakawa floodway.
So they decided to literally carve a new river.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The project started in 1911. Think about that. Over a century ago. And it was a colossal undertaking.
I bet. How long did it take?
It wasn't fully completed until 1930. Nearly 2 decades of massive construction work.
Wow. And this new channel, it just cut through whatever was there.
Exactly. It sliced right through existing villages.
Mm.
Komatsugawa village itself, Hirai, Funabori. Imagine living there and suddenly this giant construction project is dividing your community.
That must have been incredibly disruptive. So the boundaries had to change then.
They did. Once the floodway was established, the administrative lines were redrawn. That's when Komatsugawa town was officially formed in 1914, but now physically separated from its Edogawa neighbors.
Okay, that makes sense. Geography is destiny, or in this case, engineered geography is destiny.
Precisely. And before all this modern engineering, and before the big bridges we see today, that separation shaped daily life in other ways, too. Think about travel.
Right. Before the floodway, the area was still important for movement, wasn't it? Connecting Edo, Old Tokyo, outwards.
Yes, it was on the path of the Moto-Sakura Road, a key route connecting Edo to the province of Shimosa. Crossing the rivers was essential.
So ferries.
Ferries were crucial. And the main crossing point here, on the old Nakagawa, was famous. It was called the Sakasai no Watashi.
The reverse well ferry. That's an interesting name.
It is. And it wasn't just a functional crossing. It was apparently quite scenic. People noted the water birds, sometimes views of Fuji. It was significant enough that the famous artist Hiroshi...
Oh, from the 100 famous views of Edo series.
That's the one. He included the Sakasai ferry in his series. So it wasn't just a local crossing point. It was a recognized landmark, a gateway even.
That's amazing. A simple ferry crossing captured in iconic art. And speaking of things named after the area, we have to talk about a vegetable, right?
Yes. Komatsuna, Japanese mustard spinach. Very popular, very common in Tokyo.
And it gets its name directly from Komatsugawa.
It does. It's a great little story, actually. The local green wasn't originally called komatsuna. I think the sources say it was kasayana.
Kasayana, right. So how did it become komatsuna?
Well, the story involves the shogun, Tokugawa Yoshimune, the 8th shogun. Apparently, he was out hawk hunting in the Komatsugawa area.
As shoguns do.
As they do. And he stopped at the local Katori shrine for a break, maybe some food. And they served him a soup made with this local green, the kasayana. And he really liked it.
He liked the taste.
Loved it, apparently. So much so that he decided right then and there to give it a proper name. And he named it after the place he was visiting. Komatsugawa, later shortened to Komatsuna.
Wow. So the shogun himself just names a vegetable.
Pretty much. Instant branding by the most powerful man in the country. That royal seal of approval really cemented its status as a Tokyo specialty vegetable, which it still is today.
That's a fantastic piece of local history tied to flavor. So Komatsugawa's identity is shaped by this engineered river, these historical crossings, even a shogun named Vegetable. But the story takes a darker turn too, doesn't it? World War II.
Yes, unfortunately. That resilience we talked about earlier was really forged in fire, quite literally. The Tokyo air raids hit this area incredibly hard.
Especially the big one, March 10th, 1945.
That one was particularly devastating for the eastern wards. Komatsugawa, being densely packed and largely wooden structures back then, was almost completely incinerated. The destruction was immense.
The records mention huge casualties, thousands of buildings gone just like that.
It was catastrophic. Over 11,000 buildings just in Itogawa Ward destroyed. You'd think maybe they'd reconsider rebuilding in such a vulnerable, low-lying area after that kind of trauma.
But they didn't abandon it. They doubled down, right? This leads to that huge post-war project.
Exactly. There was this recognition that the Koto Delta area was just too important to abandon, but it had to be made safer, much safer. So in 1969, they launched this incredibly ambitious plan, the Ojima Komatsugawa District Redevelopment Project.
And the goal wasn't just rebuilding. It was something more.
The specific goal was to create a disaster prevention park city, to fundamentally re-engineer the district to withstand future threats, both floods and, implicitly, things like fire spreading.
And this is where the super levees really come into play, structurally.
Absolutely. We mentioned them earlier. Maybe we should clarify exactly what makes a levee super.
Good idea. Because it's not just a higher wall, is it?
No, not at all. The key difference is the width. A traditional levee is relatively narrow, just a barrier against water. A super levee is designed to be incredibly broad, like hundreds of meters wide in some cases.
Hundreds of meters. Why so wide?
Because the width gives it immense stability. Even if there's, say, an earthquake or erosion, the sheer mass prevents catastrophic failure. But more importantly, it creates usable land on top of the levee structure itself.
Okay, so you're not just building behind the levee, you're building on it.
Precisely. Roads, parks, schools, even residential buildings can be safely constructed on the raised ground created by the super levee. It essentially elevates the entire area, creating that Takamachi-zukuri, or high ground city we talked about.
It's like building on a giant artificial hill that's also a flood defense.
That's a good way to put it. It's a massive piece of defensive infrastructure that doubles as urban real estate.
And the most visible, maybe the most beautiful expression of this is the cherry blossoms, right? The Senbonzakura.
Oh yes, the Komatsugawa Senbonzakura. The 1,000 cherry trees. It's spectacular.
So this isn't just a park, it's directly linked to the levee construction.
It is the levee, in a way. It's a 2-kilometer stretch planted directly along the top and slopes of the Arakawa super levee. Around 1,000 trees, about 10 different varieties, including the famous Some Yoshino.
When were they planted?
The planting started back in 1992, so they're mature now, creating this incredible tunnel effect in spring. It's really a living symbol of the area's rebirth and resilience, built right onto its main defense.
That sounds like a must-see. And you mentioned cycling.
Definitely. The Arakawa Cycling Road runs right along there on the right bank route. It's a fantastic way to experience the scale of the levee and see the blossoms. You're literally cycling on top of Tokyo's flood defense system.
Amazing. Now, besides the levee itself, the redevelopment project included other major elements too, like that huge park.
Yes, the Ojima Komatsugawa Park. It's another massive piece of the disaster prevention city puzzle. It serves as green space, recreation, but also, critically, as an evacuation area in emergencies.
And this park has its own complicated history, doesn't it? It wasn't just built on empty land.
No, far from it.
Yeah.
What's really fascinating, and maybe a bit grim, is that until the 1970s, part of that land was heavily contaminated.
Contaminated with what?
Industrial waste, specifically chromium or residue. It was a known pollution site.
Wow, so they had to clean it up before building a park.
Extensively. Major detoxification efforts were needed before the park could finally open in 1997. It's actually a really important case study in brownfield remediation, taking polluted industrial land and turning it into valuable public space.
That adds another layer to the resilience story, overcoming industrial pollution too. And the park also preserves some history, something about a Lockgate.
That's right. Within the park, they've preserved the old Komatsugawa Lockgate, the Komon. It's this old sluice gate that used to regulate water levels between the Arakawa floodway and the old Nakagawa.
So it's a reminder of that constant management of water.
Exactly. It highlights the ongoing engineering required to keep the two river systems balanced and protect the low-lying land. It's history embedded right there in the park.
Okay, so we have the super levee with cherry trees, The huge park built on remediated land. Any other green spaces worth noting for visitors?
Well, there's the Komatsugawa Shinsui Park. It's different. A Shinsui Park means it's designed for closeness to water, often following old river or canal paths.
So, more ground level.
Yes, and it's quite long, stretches about 4 kilometers. It has different sections, including water play areas. I think one part, Tagashi Komatsugawa Park, even has a big pirate ship playground.
Ha, kids would love that. And probably crucial in summer shade.
Yes, these Shinsui parks usually offer good tree cover, making them nice spots to escape the heat.
Okay, so the physical landscape was completely reshaped. Did that huge Arakawa floodway cut affect things like community identity, religion?
It absolutely did. Think about it. Your village gets physically cut in half by this massive river. Suddenly, you might not be able to easily reach your local shrine, the one that's always protected your community.
Ah, I hadn't thought of that. Access to places of worship would have been cut off for some.
Precisely. The original protector shrines, like the Shinkoiwa Katori Shrine and Nishikomatsugawa Kenso Shrine, were now on the other side of the floodway for many residents.
So what did they do? Build a new shrine?
They did, but it was more profound than just building a new building. In 1936, they founded the Komatsugawa Shrine, and they did it by performing a ritual called bunrei.
Bunrei, what does that mean?
It means receiving a split spirit or a divided spirit from the original shrines. It's a way of spiritually extending the presence and protection of the original deity to a new location.
Wow. So they weren't just building a new place, they were ensuring the spiritual continuity was maintained despite the physical separation.
Exactly. It shows how deeply connected the community felt to its traditions and how they adapted to maintain that connection even when faced with such a massive man-made barrier. It's quite moving, really.
It really is, adapting faith to infrastructure. Okay, so bringing it to the present day, if someone's exploring Komatsugawa now, where can they get a taste of the local life and maybe some of that history?
Well, you can still feel the community vibe. For instance, there are traditional businesses that have been around. If you like Japanese sweets, wagashi,
Yeah.
there's a place called Genshuan in Nishikomatsugawa, known for its traditional treats.
Authentic local flavor, anything more modern.
Yeah. You also see places that blend the old and new. There's a coffee shop called Gobuchi Coffee that's apparently in a renovated old Japanese house.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
And what's nice is they seem to connect with other local businesses. They apparently feature bread from a long-standing local place, bakery corn.
Yeah.
So you get that sense of local commerce supporting each other.
That's great. It shows the community fabric is still strong. So whether you're sipping coffee or walking under those cherry trees.
You're essentially interacting with layers of history, resilience, and very intentional design.
So wrapping this up, what's the big picture takeaway from Komatsugawa?
I think it's that Komatsugawa is a prime example of a truly modern, highly engineered urban space. It's a city built quite deliberately for safety, that Takamachi-zukuri high ground city created directly in response to historical disasters like floods and war.
And it manages to make that heavy engineering feel livable, pleasant even.
That's the remarkable part. It seamlessly blends critical infrastructure, these massive super levees, with really appealing public spaces like the Senbonzakura cherry trees and the parks. Life flourishes there, right on top of what is essentially a giant fortress against nature.
It makes you think differently about urban landscapes.
It really does. And maybe here's a final thought to leave people with. Those super levees protecting Komatsugawa allow homes, schools, parks to exist safely on what would otherwise be dangerous low-lying land.
Right.
Consider how that might be a model for the future. What looks like a beautiful park, like the Senbonzakura path, is actually this perfect fusion of critical defense engineering and everyday life. As climate change brings new challenges, maybe more cities will need to embrace this kind of integration. It really makes you appreciate the hidden engineering and maybe the true cost of keeping our cities safe.